Hi, welcome again to ThreatTraq Essentials. I'm here this week with Manish Jain. Welcome, Manish.
Thank you.
Great to have you here. Let's talk about this week's stories and see what lessons we can learn from them. The first one is one that Ganesh brought us about the Mosi Botnet. Tell me about it. What's going on with this story?
Sure. So, if you're not familiar with a botnet, it's basically devices that are on the internet that they're compromised in some way, and they're talking to a command and control server and being given directions on what to do. And often, a lot of these botnets are made up of vulnerable devices that are almost kind of throwaway devices, like internet connected DVRs and network gateways and things like that. So the Mosi botnet itself, one of the new pivots that it's recently taken is it seems to be targeting network gateways. And what's dangerous about this. So what's dangerous about the having your network gateway compromised is that it kind of sits in the middle of all of your traffic, internet traffic, and it can act as a man in the middle. So it can hijack all of that traffic and manipulate it some way, or collect credentials that are being passed in the clear and things like that. And then the other thing it can do, since it's already at your network gateway, it can figure out what's going on in your network and then maybe laterally move to something that's a little more important, like your laptop or a desktop or something like that. Just kind of figure out everything that's in your network and take advantage of it and compromise it and have it do something that you probably don't want it to do, because in the process of doing that, you're probably going to lose some of your personal information, maybe lose your credentials, your banking account credentials, your social media account credentials and things like that. So there's a real danger to having these devices exposed to the internet and not really being able to take care of them and keep them up to date and patch and things like that.
How do you protect yourself then? How do you protect yourself
right?
then?
So that's so ultimately the best way to protect yourself is to not have one of these at all, right? Just completely, if you don't need it, I would recommend just removing it, right? If it's something that you do need, you have to really pay attention to any sort of updates that come out, any patches, and just really keep on top of it. Make sure you have a pretty complicated password to the device itself. Don't allow management from the internet, things like that. Unfortunately, a lot of these devices, there's vulnerabilities that you don't need, as an attacker, you don't even need to be authenticated to the device to attack it. So if it's available, if it can be accessed from the internet, it's pretty dangerous to have that device on there. So if you can limit your exposure by getting these devices behind something else so that they can't be directly accessed, make sure you have good patch management on these devices and complicated passwords.
Now, ransomware is still around, and ransomware gangs are still out there. They haven't all been shut down. Indu brought us a story about that, so tell me about it.
That's right. These ransomware gangs, while periodically a large attack comes, it gets publicized in the news. There's tons of attacks going on every day. That's plenty of them that you don't even hear about. Small to medium-sized companies. And there's many different ransomware gangs out there. So even though the large ransomware gangs that are targeting larger companies and asking for millions and millions of dollars in payment, while those are the ones that typically make it to the news, there's plenty of other attacks that go on which are much smaller. However, if you're a small business owner and you get targeted like that by one of these, and and you don't have a good backup system and you don't have any sort of patch management, the information could be completely lost. And that could be devastating to a small business, right? That could even, to the point where if that company can't really get that data back, or they can't afford to pay the ransom in some way or whatever, or it's too costly, they could put that company out of business, which is unfortunate. So while we don't hear about it every day, they're probably going on every single day. And, there's still a concern. There's new adversaries that are, it's obviously, it continues because these ransomware gangs are making a good deal of money, right? So there's incentive in them for continuing this. And not only they're continuing it, every time there's a new vulnerability that comes out, they're quick to turn around and exploit and start taking advantage of those vulnerabilities. These ransomware gangs, they're very it seems like the amount of resources they have, the lengths that they're willing to go to you know, successfully target an organization. It seems to be pretty sophisticated. It obviously runs from the gamut, right, to highly organized, very sophisticated ransomware gangs to somewhere in the middle.
So there are precautions you can take, first of all, not to get infected in the first place, but also to protect you in case you do. Tell me about it.
That's right. So, I mean, typically, I think what's recommended is 3 separate backups, right? One completely off-premise, one accessible from the network, and one in cold storage, maybe. So having those multiple backups, taking those backups, constantly having them accessible and some not so accessible, right? Because I know a lot of these ransomware gangs, they do look for those backups as well, and they'll encrypt the backups. So it's very important to have a robust backup plan in place.
Now, you brought us a story about another botnet. This one was yet another variant of the Mirai botnet.
That's right. And I think the theme of the day is kind of how professional and how well run these organizations are, right? So you have this new Mirai variant, which takes advantage of a vulnerability in a device that's, that public disclosure is only 2 days old. So in that 2 days, they were able to quickly turn around and exploit to target that vulnerability. And that's a quick turnaround for these adversaries to be able to do that. And that just goes to show you that they're very organized, very professional, that they're able to continue to look for the newest vulnerabilities out there. And what that does is just continues to expand their botnet, right? The more vulnerabilities, the faster they're able to exploit them as they're reported. That's just more devices that they can recruit in their botnet.
Well, great lessons learned from all these stories. Thank you so much, Manish. And thank you all for watching. If you want to keep up with great stories and advice like this every week, please like and subscribe below. And you can take a deeper dive into any of these stories by clicking on them and watching them in their entirety. We'll see you next time.